Okay, so good day class. So welcome back to my channel. So we're going to continue our discussion in legal aspects in tourism and hospitality. So for today, we are going to continue chapter 7's lecture. So we will be finishing the just cause termination, and also we are going to discuss the authorized cause termination of employments. And then later, we are also going to discuss the procedural the procedures in terminating an employee. So let's get started. For today, we will be continuing just cause termination. So last time we have already discussed some items relevant to just cause termination. So those are as follows. We have already discussed the gross and habitual neglect of duties. We have also discussed insubordination or yung willful disobedience. And for today, we are going to start a new one, which is fraud or willful breach, which will result to the loss of trust and confidence of the employee or the employer rather. According to Article 282 Part C of the Labor Code of the Philippines, it was discussed there that there should be two separate distinction in this just cause termination. First one is what we call as fraud, or in Tagalog is pangloloko. So if the employee willfully created a fraudulent act inside a company, that is a just cause reason for termination. So pandaraya or panloloko. And then the second one is a willful breach, which results to the loss of confidence of the employer. Nangyayari ang loss of confidence mainly because there are employers who are entrusting their employees of certain tasks that are very vital to the organization. Say for instance, halimbawa, the owner of a certain hotel have given a specific task to the general manager about, let's say for instance, an increase on the salary across the board of all the employees. And then all of a sudden, this the owner have mentioned na, tayo lang muna nakakaalam nito because we are going to discuss it with the board. And then the general manager couldn't help his mouth. Salita siya, nasabi niya yun sa secretary niya, then the secretary told everybody. And then, all of a sudden, hindi natuloy yung bonus. So basically, yung mga confidential matters, diba, are part of something that is being entrusted to a key position employee. So kapag yung mga ganito, nagkaroon siya ng fault, it is an honest fault, pwede ito maging grounds for just cause termination of employment. Meron naman, let's say for instance, sa rank and file, let's say for instance, ikaw, binigyan ka ng task, ikaw yung housekeeping custodian. Say for instance, you are a housekeeping custodian in a hotel, and then you were tasked to do the inventory of all of the stocks, yung power stock na ginagamit natin pagdating sa mga cleaning materials, agents, etc. etc. And then ikaw mismo ay, say for instance, nandadaya, nag-uuwi ka ng mga gamit, may mga ganyan kasi, minsan they cannot help it kasi syempre, let's say cleaning agent, diba, minsan madaling bilangin yan, yung iba parang they feel na parang, marami naman stock, try ko mag-uwi. And then all of a sudden nakita or nalaman na may ganun kang acts. So basically, the executive housekeeper will lose trust on you, and because they have already lost their trust on you to handle that kind of a certain task, which is very essential to the operation of the department, that is already considered as just cause for termination. So I think we're clear with number 3. We now proceed with number 4, which is a commission of crime. So sa commission of crime, as a just cause, the crime or any criminal acts, diba? Like what we have discussed, who is punishable under the revised penal code, okay? May it be heinous crimes, diba? Or whatever kind of criminal acts that are under the revised penal code, which was done towards the employer, towards their co-worker, towards the relatives or the immediate family of the relatives or the immediate family of the employer, and towards the duly authorized representatives of the employer, is considered as just cause for termination. So, ulitin ko lang po, ang nasasaklaw po ng batas ay commission of crime which involves yung which involves yung employer, okay, the direct employer with also the co-workers. Second is the immediate family of the employer, and third are the duly authorized representatives of the employer. So when you talk about the duly authorized representatives, so yung mga immediate superiors, managers, etc. Okay? So if you committed crimes to these people, then that's just cause for termination. Again, going back, just a review, just cause termination is employee initiated. Okay? Employee initiated siya. So meaning these are the wrongful acts done by the employee while they are in contract with the employer. Now we proceed with the second type or the second area in terms of termination, which is authorized causes. The authorized causes naman, hindi ito or wala itong kinalaman sa wrongful acts ng ating mga empleyado, but rather this is employer-initiated termination. Okay, when we talk about employer-initiated, according to Article 283 of the Civil Code, 283 of the Labor Code of the Philippines, rather, employers are allowed to terminate employees even though they have not committed any wrongful acts, mainly because of the following reasons lang po. So, number one, we have the installation of labor-saving devices. So, when we talk about installation of labor-saving devices, medyo uso to ngayon, okay? Especially right now in the age of the 4th Industrial Revolution, where AI is actually, or the artificial intelligence is replacing human labor. When a company decides to automate, or when a company decides to include machineries in their process, and your work is no longer considered as relevant, or your employment is no longer considered as relevant in the process, then pwede kang matanggal. Okay? And then, sad to say, these are employer initiated because they want to improve the economy of the business. Okay? Second is redundancy. When we talk about redundancy, it happens where the service of an employee are in excess of what is reasonably be demanded by the actual requirement of the enterprise. Nangyayari po ang redundancy mainly of these three reasons. Number one, there is an overhiring of workers. So, halimbawa, nagbukas ng isang branch ng Jollibee, and then they said they will be hiring 30 service crew. Okay? But apparently, during the time that they are operating, okay, they only need 20. So, technically, the other 10 service crew, okay, which may either be selected by the company based on different metrics, can be redundated. So, when you say that they are being redundated, pare-pareho sila ng klase ng trabaho, however, hindi ganun kataas yung demand, okay, or masyado na overhire yung ng HR, yung requirements for the workers, so pwede po silang tanggalin sa trabaho. Okay? And then, another one, okay, another result of redundancy is the decrease of the volume of the business. Okay, halimbawa, yung mga companies na dati sobrang lakas kumita, okay, o sobrang daming benta. Okay, let's say factories, diba? So, mga factories before. Let's say for instance, you're a factory of sardines, and then you are producing, say for instance, 50 million cans annually. And then all of a sudden, dahil dumami yung competition sa market, you have been reduced to 25 million cans, okay, on an annual basis. So because of the decrease in the volume of the business, therefore there are some employees who will be redundated from their work. And then the third one is basically the dropping of a particular line or a service previously undertaken by the enterprise. Maraming ganito, okay, particularly in the airline sector and in the hotel sector. There are some departments of a certain company that are now being outsourced. Okay? Kaya nga po nauso yung mga BPOs or yung mga business process outsourcing companies, because they're actually receiving a certain service, or they are actually servicing a certain company on a specific departments that they are being entrusted to, na dati ay originally within the company. Bakit to ginagawa? Kasi instead of closing the entire business just because meron isang department na hindi nagpa-function ng maayos, better yet to take out that department and give it to an outsourcing company. Okay? So, because of this, pwedeng ma-redundate or pwedeng matanggalan ng trabaho yung mga tao na nandoon sa department na yon. Okay, so sad to say, may mga ganyan na tayo ngayong cases, especially in the airline sector, 'di ba? Yung ating ground handling, hindi naman siya direct hire, okay, especially here in the Philippines. So as we all know, both local and international flights here in our country is not catered by it's not catered directly by the airlines themselves. There are actually ground handling companies. These are actually outsourced by different airlines. So, instead na dapat nag-work ka directly, okay, sometimes in mga direct employees, ang nangyayari, na-redundate sila, and then nililipat yung department sa outsourcing company. Okay, another one is yung mga reservations, diba? Online reservations natin, yung mga central reservations ng hotels, minsan ina-outsource na rin yan, especially kung malalaking companies. Okay? And then the third that's actually the third result rather of the redundancy. We now proceed with the third kind of authorized cause, termination of work. So this is a retrenchment. So, maraming nalilito in terms of retrenchment and redundancy. Yung redundancy po is basically like what I have discussed earlier. So, kapag masyadong sobra yung workers compared to the demand of work. Yung retrenchment, or also known as layoff, okay, para mas madaling maintindihan, yung pagle-layoff po ng empleyado, this is actually a termination of employment initiated by the employer through no fault of the employees and without prejudice to the latter, resorted by the management during the following periods. So, meron siyang specific period kung kailan nagko-conduct ng layoff. Okay, number one, there is a business recession. When you say business recession, biglang bumagsak yung negosyo. Okay? Bumagsak to the point na hindi pa naman nagsasara. Okay? So, meaning to say, they have to diminish their operations. So, meaning to say, maraming, halimbawa, they are let's say, kagaya na-explain ko kanina, a factory, diba? With 50 million cans production annual 50 million annual can production per year was reduced to 25. So the people from different departments will be laid off. Okay, so may matatanggal sa production, may matatanggal sa finance. So hindi siya departmental basis. So sa layoff, kahit sino, okay, basta within the company. Industrial recession is also an example. Ang business recession, yung negosyo lang ang nakakaproblema. When we talk about industrial recession rather, yung buong industriya or yung isang buong enterprise. So, paano siya? Halimbawa, tourism. Okay? Naman sana, no? Halimbawa, biglang humina ang turista sa Pilipinas. So, let's say here in Metro Manila. So, all of a sudden, syempre, magkakaroon ngayon ng recession yung mga hotels. Okay? Instead na dati, punong-puno lahat ng hotels, so bababa ngayon yung number ng occupancy. Dahil mababa yung occupancy ng lahat ng hotels sa Philippines, karamihan sa mga hotels magtatanggalan ng trabahante or ng mga trabahador. Okay? Then, there are seasonal fluctuations. We also have lack of orders. Okay? So, that's number 4, lack of orders. Number 5 is shortage of materials. Okay? So, especially in the manufacturing companies, kung yung raw mats or yung raw materials ay hindi enough for the production, so meaning to say, hindi kayo makapag-produce ng marami, therefore, mag-lay off ng tao. Conversion to a new production program, halimbawa may in-introduce na other methods, okay, which is also relevant to the last one, which is introduction of new methods and automation, naglagay ng bagong machinery, that is still part of retrenchment. Okay, and then next is number 4, the closure of business. Talking about the closure of business, it is an authorized cause, okay, an authorized cause to terminate employees when you are actually closing or ceasing the entire business. Okay, however, the cessation of the business should be in good faith. Okay, when we talk about it should be in good faith, masasabi mo lang yan na talaga magsasara na yung negosyo ninyo if, nang una sa lahat, you are declaring bankruptcy or financial losses. Or, then the other one is incapability of incapability of managing the entire business itself. Okay? So, pwede na sila magsara. And then, the last one is health-related or the diseases that is considered to be a ground for termination. So, medyo uso po ngayon. Okay? Like what we're experiencing right now, the COVID-19, kasama pa rin to dito, no? So, when we talk about the diseases, okay, as a ground for authorized cause termination, unang-una sa lahat, meron tong considerations. Hindi naman pwede na nagkasakit, okay, dahil nagkasakit ng TB, okay na, babay ka na, wala na, talagang trabaho. Hindi ganon. Okay? There are actually ways to do this. Okay? Halimbawa, an employee has been diagnosed by a certain disease. However, the disease is curable within the period of 6 months. Okay, please take note of that. If the disease is curable within the period of 6 months, then that employee should not be terminated from his employment and should be asked to take leave of absence. Okay? Again, if the disease is curable within the period of 6 months, do not terminate your employee. However, advise them to take their leave of absence. Okay? Leave of absence, meaning to say, is it leave with pay or leave without pay? Siyempre, kung ikaw ay regular employee, uubusin muna natin yung leave with pay credits or yung leave credits, and then kung wala na, they can use their loans or they can use their assistance from SSS, GSIS, Pag-ibig, PhilHealth, and kung wala na rin yun, then that's the time wala na talaga, without pay na lahat. Okay? So, however, kung within 6 months, diba, no, gumaling nga yung empleyado, kailangan pong i-reinstate natin yung empleyado sa kanyang original work. Okay? Now, if the disease that has come in contact with the certain employee is uncurable within the period of 6 months, and it should have been authorized, okay, or it should have been confirmed by a competent public health authority. Okay? So, meaning to say, meron to dapat certification na itong sakit na to ay hindi gagaling or hindi kayang gumaling in the period of 6 months. Okay? Duly authorized by the Department of Health or anyone from the public health authorities, no? So, hospitals may do so. Then, now we apply the authorized cause for terminating the employee on health-related termination. Okay? So, I think we are clear with that, no? So, we now proceed with the next part of our discussion. So, The next part of our discussion is basically the procedures, no? So the procedural requirements in terminating an employee who is found to have violated any of the just cause termination provisions, no? So according to section 2, okay, section 2, rule number 23 of book 5 of the Omnibus Rules implementing the labor code, it says here that for the termination of employment based on just cause, these are the following. Number 1, a written notice served on the employee specifying the grounds for termination and giving the said employee reasonable opportunity to explain his or her side. So the first one is the issuance of the memorandum of the memorandum to explain. Okay, so in business terms, it's called memorandum to explain or notice to explain. So ano po ito? So i-issue natin ito ngayon. So normally, ang nag-i-issue niyan, okay, kung there are some companies who entrust their immediate superior, yung immediate superior ng empleyado ang magbibigay nung notice to explain. Yung ibang companies naman, HR directly, no? So either way, tama naman po yun. I-explain dun sa tao kung ano yung infraction na ginawa niya, okay, which is considered to be a just cause for termination. And then, after that, we always give an allowance for the employee to respond. Okay? And the response should be in writing also. Since the method of delivery is in writing, then, therefore, the response should also be in writing. There are some companies who will allow you to respond within 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours. Again, we go back to the discussion of management prerogative. It depends on what the management feels pagdating dito sa ganitong measures. Especially if the just cause termination is basically, it needs action, no? Agad-agad. So, mas maiksi yung time frame siguro, okay, ng response from the employee. And then afterwards, when there is already the response or the employee have already responded through writing, then we proceed with the second one. A hearing or conference during which the employee concerned with the assistance of the counsel of the employee so desires is given opportunity to respond to the charges, present his evidences, or rebut the evidence presented against him. So, dapat daw po, kung meron na pong written response, kailangan po natin ngayon mag-set ng meeting or any conference to hear the side of the employee who has been charged of an infraction. So again, going back, diba, Article 3 of the Philippine Constitution tells us that no one should be deprived of life, liberty, and property unless without the due process of the law, rather. So, again, balikan din natin doon sa Article 3, ang employment po is considered as a property of an employee. No? So, yung trabaho ay bahagi ng kanyang property. So, hindi mo pwedeng tanggalin agad yung trabaho sa kanya without the due process. So, dito ngayon papasok yung due process sa letter B. Okay? So, sabi nga dito, kailangan daw po ay pakinggan natin. No? Let the accused present his evidences and answer the queries of the counsel. Okay? And then from that, the counsel will now decide. We now proceed with the letter C. A written notice of termination served to on the employee indicating that upon due consideration of all the circumstances, grounds has been established to justify termination. So the termination for just cause ay sinaserve po right after the hearing of the counsel, no? Particularly yung counsel natin, so ano yan, task force yan normally na ina-assign din po ng HR and then also by the general manager or kung sino yung pinaka-head ng company. Okay? The failure of the employer to observe the above procedure may hold the employer liable for damages. In the case of Agabon versus NLRC, the Supreme Court ordered the employer to pay the employee who was dismissed from employment the damages of 30,000 pesos for failure to observe procedural requirements above. Meron pong responsibility ang employer na i-observe ng maigi ang procedures ng termination. Kasi kapag napatunayan ng korte na hindi ka sumunod sa proseso bago mo tinanggalan ng trabaho ang isang tao, then the employer will be liable for any civil damages. Okay? Now, we proceed with our last topic for today, which is the procedural requirements if the cause of termination is any of the authorized causes. So, if the cause of the termination of the employee is due to authorized cause, the employer must do the following. Number 1, they have to serve a written notice to the workers at least 1 month before the intended date of termination. Again, we give our employees a 30-day leeway. Okay? So, regardless, yung mga nagre-resign nga, diba? When they resign to a certain post, they have to give the company 30 days. Okay? 30-day leeway or 30-day notice para syempre yung employer makahanap ng ibang trabaho. Same goes with the termination. Kung ang company or ang employer ay pag-terminate ng empleyado, they have to give the employees 30-day notice para naman makapaghanap ng trabaho o na malilipatan yung mga empleyado. Hindi pwedeng agad-agad. Okay? And then, number 2, they have to serve a copy of the written notice of termination to the Department of Labor and Employment. So, dapat po, yung company ay nagpo-provide din po dapat, aside from the written notice that they have presented on the workers, there should also be a copy of the notice to be forwarded to the Department of Labor. Okay? So, after that, after 30 days, then, that's the time that everybody has been ceased from their current post. Okay? I believe I have already given the assignments and the activities that is needed to be done for the entire final grading period. I hope you are actually starting on it, because again, there are about 6 online recitations that I'll be asking from you, and those are different cases that you will be discussing afterwards. So I hope everybody have learned something from this discussion. So if you have any concerns, comments, and feedback on this video, please comment down below. Okay? So again, sa susunod po natin na discussion, we will proceed with Chapter 8, which is basically the Accreditation and the Republic Act 9593, or also known as the Tourism Act of 2009. And that will be the last topic for the legal aspects in tourism and hospitality. Okay? So, thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.